For any of you that missed this, Grinding Gear Games had a godly video, godly announcement about a huge patch coming this week. I initially thought it was going to be loaded with nerfs, and that mega balance patch is actually coming later with like a new reset in an economy. They're just going to focus on improving the game. And then they had a 2-hour Q&A. This is every question that was asked with every answer in me paraphrasing Grinding Gear Games. So let's just rip through this as fast as possible. The patch is coming this week. There will be no new league or no new economy yet. That will be later with a huge mega patch. There are quick fixes that they could get done. They said they got it all done in like 2 weeks worth of work. For the end game, it's just more rewarding everywhere. Like just like the base maps are more rewarding. The chests, the monsters, towers now have 4 additional maps, and the existing map is a catastrophe. The hallways are too narrow. You can't see in the new room. They showed some footage of it. It looks a lot better, and it's going to be a lot more fun and more rewarding to do. There's a lot more bosses that are going to be on the maps, which are actually really nice for map progression. Tablets can now add bosses to maps. You can zoom out more. There's better visual clutter. Elite attacks. If I heard them correctly, they said elite attacks disappear and don't detonate after death. This is going to be a lot of those stupid ass on death explosions. This is maybe one of my most favorite things that I heard them say. Strongbox, Expedition, Ritual, all those things were buffed. For pinnacle content, the citadels, you can now see them in the fog of war, like kind of far away. So there's no more spending 2 weeks and only finding one like I did. For the pinnacle boss, the Arbiter, you can now use all 6 portals, and they said that the other pinnacle content will be able to have all 6 portals as well. They just have to code it into the game. People will be very happy about that. For the item changes, those low-level uniques that you were finding, some are really good for twink items, but a lot of them, they just said they just sucked, so they buffed a lot of them. And they changed the weighting, and you're going to get less bad affixes. So less accuracy, less life on hit or life per second, and more of the stuff that you actually want. And now you can overwrite runes, which is a super ultimate mega change everyone was asking for. A lot of the outlier monsters that were just destroying people have been nerfed, so you're not going to get one-shotted out of nowhere as often. And they did say in the Q&A that the tornado bird that insta one-shotted me and DM, and I believe Quinn and other people, has one of the bosses that's been fixed. Console is getting item filters. That's like the number one thing I hear from console people. I've heard people say they literally have quit. With no item filter, they're not going to play. Well, now you get an item filter. Armor is buffed. They'll say later on, this is just a small buff. They have to like actually rework armor completely, but getting a buff for now. Charms now show the charges and when they're activated, so you can actually see what they're doing. And then there's going to be a mega balance change coming soon with a full reset and a new economy. Q&A, I'm just going to go real fast. They said, what change were they most excited to announce? And they said, the next patch will be the exciting stuff. I mean, I personally I think this patch is God tier, but they said that the next stuff, all the new stuff that they're bringing to the game is way more exciting than this one. What are they hoping for from the buffs to the end game maps? They want the base map to be more rewarding, and they said that they like the fact that maps have different strengths. If you learn about the small maps, that's really good for completing them quickly or killing a boss quickly for moving toward a citadel. Or maybe you super juice a gigantic map to like do all of your league mechanics on. And me personally, I really like the strategy from Grinding Gear Games because it feels good in these games as you learn more about them to get more out of the game rather than every map being the same thing and it doesn't matter at all. So I like the strategy a lot. But the minimum will be a lot better. It won't be as easy to brick, and it won't be as easy to run out of maps. I said, what about the shit maps like Augury and Val Factory? They said some of the things in them are just unacceptable, like the levers, and then you can't dodge roll, and then burning ground can spawn under them. All of that stuff is terrible, and they will remove it. But they did say there needs to be variance between the maps. That way, certain builds that like the smaller rooms versus the gigantic open maps that build just one-shot everything. What is their opinion on the map sustain? Will the boss change? Are you making the boss changes more bosses on the maps and the bosses being able to be added to maps to help it? They said there's not sure that there's a Waystone sustain problem, but they'll take more feedback. My opinion on this is I like the fact that Waystones are important. They shouldn't be so rare that we can't play, but they shouldn't drop so often that you don't give a shit about them. I think with these changes, I think Waystones might actually be in a really good spot. So I kind of agreed with their take that after this patch, maybe there won't be a problem, but we'll just have to play it and see. What are they hoping to accomplish with Expedition? They said one problem with Expedition is it doesn't have this like unique specific thing. It gives you like crafting, but the crafting is the same that you can do anywhere else. They're going to give Expedition some actual unique feature that you can't get somewhere else to make you more powerful, but they didn't say what it was. Why did they wait to add the extra portals to the other bosses? They just said it's harder to make the portals for some of the other bosses. For example, the Breach boss, if they just put in a portal, all 6 of them, it might actually let you redo the Breach, which would give you extra loot. So they have to make sure that doesn't happen. They said, are the Copper Citadels actually the same spawn rate? Yes, they are. They said they ran 1 billion simulations. The Copper Citadels do spawn as often, but people keep dying to the boss's on-death explosions, and they fixed the on-death explosions. And the boss was also, they said, just too difficult relative to the other 2 bosses, so they brought it in line with the other 2. Were any of the conspiracy theories for spawning citadels true? No. And that's what I was saying. It's just all confirmation bias, and none of them were right. So that's why I didn't make a video on any of those conspiracy theories. What does less bad mods on items mean? They reiterated less accuracy, life on kill, mana on kill. For some of the best items in the game, like the tier 5 yellows, they accidentally coded that some of the best affixes were not possible to get on them. Like attack speed couldn't roll on T5 bows, which is like the best suffix. So they have fixed those impossibilities. So gear in general should be a little bit better and to craft on. And then they had a discussion about, so if you aren't familiar, in POE1, tier 1 is the best, and in POE2, tier whatever the highest tier is the best. Like T12, it changes. They said, it's first of all, it's the opposite of maps. So maps go 1 to 15, and 15 is the best. So it actually goes to like 18 at the top. But they don't want 1 to be the best for items and 15 to be the best for maps. Then they said if they add a new tier later in the game beyond tier 1, if they reversed it, then they'd have to redo the entire thing. My main take on this particular topic is they should have it the same between POE1 and POE2. It's so confusing that it's backwards. And I'm going to be completely honest. I thought POE1's was better and less confusing. Tier 1 is the best. If you add a new tier, it just becomes the new tier 1. Like, that's fine. I would rather learn that the top tier is now 250 life instead of 220 life and just have tier 1 be the best. I think the fact that it's the opposite of maps is an absolute nothing. It's totally fine that it's the opposite of maps. I have never found that confusing. I have never heard anyone say that they have found that confusing. No matter what you do on this, I think you have to make it the same between the 2 games. The fact that they're polar opposites, I think, is the biggest problem. What else is coming to consoles? They said many more things are coming besides the loot filter, but you will be able to instant swap between controller and mouse and keyboard on the UI. That's what they have coming very soon. What feedback surprised you the most from the community? They said that the damage builds that people make got way too high. People got to the pinnacle bosses and one-shot it without seeing the mechanics. I only got to fight the pinnacle boss 1 time because I couldn't find the citadels, and I did not see his mechanics. He died with my Eye Strike monk. So that's exactly what happened to me. They, in general, in the future, they don't want to do mid-league nerfs, and the next patch might like nerf the top 10 things, but it's going to bring 50 things up. And more on the nerfing philosophy. Anything truly game-breaking or causing FPS or server issues will be fixed immediately, but in general, they don't want to do mid-league nerfs. A lot of people got their accounts hacked. They wanted to know if there was a data breach and will they implement two-factor authentication. In general, there's a big story. The answer is no. There was a Steam account attached to an admin account. Someone stole the Steam account and then got access to the admins, and then 66 accounts were hacked with some others. There was not a massive data breach. Two-factor authentication is now required with some other changes for Grinding Gear Games employees, but they said that they may add 2FA for everybody else as well. Is there a roadmap for upcoming releases? They want to make big, juicy, impactful changes. They don't want to release a patch like every week because then people will actually come back and play it and then they can get data from the testing. The next big patch, though, that they said that they were very excited to release is going to be rushed. They said faster than the other one. So we can expect the next mega patch soon. They were asked about the state of Magic Find, a huge topic in the community. They said it's the same formula in POE1, but rarity is different in POE2, and it impacts currencies. It doesn't literally give you more quantity, but it's like pseudo quantity because with rarity, the currencies are affected. So it seems like you get more exalts and that the quantity of exalts and divines goes up. They said that the people that really hate Magic Find is a fair take, but they didn't really agree with it. They said in general for Magic Find, they need more data. They will look deeper with more of the changes as the game gets closer to being launched. The state of warriors and maces, they said that they think the campaign is fine. The end game seems to have a problem with scaling. Their attack speed and their attack times are a problem, like they're really slow. And warriors are compared to Giga Chad builds like the Hand of Wisdom and Action mercenary that's going to get nerfed. But then DM went on the attack and he said, would you agree that warriors have the worst state of everything? The worst offense, the worst defense, the worst scaling? And they both said that they actually agreed. So they agree that the warriors are in the worst state possible. And then they said in general, they're going to add a lot more things for maces. What about the armor problem that Kripparrian drew so much attention to? It needs more than what they're giving it. They're just giving it a small update. They're not exactly sure internally how to fix it. One of the problems is that evasion and energy shield have way better synergies with other things that make them so strong. They need to think it out a lot more, and they need a big change to armor to actually fix the entire problem. Are they changing the charm numbers? No, but they feel that charms have things wrong with them. There aren't enough charm slots, and charms are a newer thing that's really not complete. So the charm thing that they said that they're fixing earlier is just when it's being activated and how many charges you have. What about the state of crafting? It's 2-slot machine, not machinery, 2-slot machine. And there needs to be more determinism, but exactly as they said, I'm glad they said this, you can't make it so deterministic that you can just craft whatever you want because then you don't have a game. They'll make more changes later. What about the state of divines? Nothing much to say. It'll be fixed with more future leagues and content because they were arguing that no one uses divines because they're only used on the stat amulet and ingenuity belts. That's only like the top 1.1% of people. But I don't think this is a big problem. I think this will just be fixed naturally as they expand the game. State of endgame mechanics. This is like strongbox and essences. They said the balance is really off and endgame just had a severe lack of testing, but the more people are playing it, they're figuring out. They said essences and strongboxes are supposed to not be known that they're coming. They're supposed to be surprises. They're supposed to be exciting. But currently, they're just anti-dopamine because they suck. They're aware of that. But they do want both layers to continue in POE2. The mechanics that you spec into, that you place on the maps that you want to do, and the surprises within the map, they just need to be far more rewarding. How does the transition from the campaign to the end game feel for players? What data are they seeing? They said players are not very powerful in the beginning. They need it to make They need to make it way better and more fun in the beginning of the end game rather than just complete tier 1 maps. They need to help new players a lot more. The narrative just ends and people are lost with absolutely no direction. They said this was a major focal point that they're going to change about the end game. The state of one portal mapping, it hurts new players because new players don't have a good build. They don't know what they're doing. When they die, they lose the map. They have to redo it. But the blasters have good builds. They don't really die as much. And even if they die, they'll just keep playing anyway. So it's like very one-sided. And how do they feel about XP on death? They want to make deaths matter. So they said they would prefer to make a bunch of other changes rather than changing the single portal. But too many death penalties currently occur at the same time. You lose the map, you lose all the currency laying on the map if you haven't picked it up, and you also lose the XP. They said in general, the start of maps should be easier and the difficulty should ramp up. Again, I mentioned this in the live stream. I'm just going to mention it one more time because I shouldn't say this, but it just pisses me off. This is the feedback that I said that I think grinding gear games should do to help new players. And a bunch of PoE elitists said I was a piece of shit. And if you make the start of maps or Act 1 in the campaign easier, then you're just ruining the game. It brought a big smile up to my face to see grinding gear games say that this is exactly how it should be to help new players. So, yeah, I'll stop there. How do you feel about ailment application in POE1 versus POE2? So the ailment application is based upon the magnitude of the hit and in POE2, and they say that they really like that. And they actually really like the asymmetry, like Hammer of the Gods being really good at applying an ailment, whereas something really fast attacking might not be. They said in POE1 they fixed this and they balanced the entire game by adding like ailment modifiers or coefficients or whatever. And they said they would prefer to keep going with something similar like they have in POE2. In general, I agree with that. I don't mind that there's asymmetry in the game. It makes the game interesting. There just needs to be choices within the asymmetry. It can't just be all Hammer of the Gods. Ascendancy swapping. They would prefer that that it's locked in and ultra important, but many people feel completely the opposite way and feel that you should be able to switch it. They said that this is not a hill that they want to die on. I believe that was the exact quote. So it sounds like as long as the community keeps really complaining about it, then they will allow it. It sounds like from the sound of it, it sounded like it's probably going to change. Should pinnacle bosses be one-shottable? They said, no, you should have 1 to 3 minutes of actual skilled combat, which means not the phasing, not the dialogue, not the RP. You should be playing for at least 1 minute of skilled combat before you should be able to kill a boss. The 7th and 8th ascendancy points are a hot topic because they're very difficult to acquire. And they asked, are they supposed to be this difficult? And they said, yes. They are supposed to be very challenging, an endgame thing to get your final 8th ascendancy. So a very casual, let's say non-skilled or low-time player, it sounds like they will not be expected to get their 8th ascendancy point in a league. Are they going to change the core Atlas tree? They said many changes will be coming, and their words were the current core Atlas tree, which is the endgame tree, feels boring and flat. Map tab when? As soon as possible. They're building it right now. Predictive versus lockstep networking. They haven't looked at it yet. Terrain obstruction being worked on? Yes. What about all the crashes? They're looking into the crashes, but they said that it's not so easy to fix. And they said they might even turn on a mode where they can track what you're doing if you're getting the crashes. It will lower your frame rate a little bit, but it'll help them solve it immediately. If they implement it, I'll make a quick video and I'll tell you, hey, if you want to help grinding your games fix all the crashes, turn this on and I'll tell you when it's fixed. Minions being blocked in doorways. This is a major problem that they said this. It's a major problem that impacts a lot of people. Passability doesn't work. They tried it and it made the minions play way worse. They need a very smart solution. They don't know what it is yet. They have tried everything obvious. Nothing works. But one thing they are going to change is minions that die in the distance should respawn instantly. Minions don't dodge major attacks, especially damages over time. You're supposed to be able to, the way that you are able to keep your minions alive isn't good enough. They will do a better job in the future. Minions become slowed with debuffs when you get slowed. Is that intended? No, they'll fix it. The tooltips for minions don't work. They will fix it. When are they adding specters? Fairly soon. The other things they were saying like really soon. So this fairly soon is probably more like Blizzard soon, like not very soon. Search feature, is the search feature coming on the Atlas? Yes. Tornado Bird, nerfed. Yeah, after it already killed me in DM. Well, whatever. Auction House, nothing to announce right now. Accessibility for red-green color blindness. They want to fix it in the game. They don't want to add a mode for red-green color blindness. So they have some people that they will test it with red-green color blindness and just fix it for everybody. Visibility on rare blue mobs. They were vehemently against adding a glow for the rare and blue mobs. They literally called it cancer in games. They are going to work on it and solve it a different way. What about the visuals in co-op? Can you disable the visuals for your teammate? They said they will not add an option, but they can make engine fixes that just make it automatically better. Can you disenchant flasks for quality? They will add it. Are they going to add checkpoints and maps? That's not a terrible idea. What about seeing the gems before you cut them? They'll think about it. Gambler in the hideout. It was originally in the hideout. Then they found an exploit 10 minutes before the game launched. They removed it. They'll add it back. Venom Quest, you can't reselect the rewards. They'll add it. They'll let you reselect it. Movement speed as it implicit on boots. They said they don't like this take. Movement speed will stay on boots. They like how it is right now. Can you ever customize the UI? It will never be like WoW where you can change everything. But if you have a really good UI change or a slider that you really need, they might add it. Body blocking in co-op. Something is not right about co-op. They have like the wrong size of the players relative to others, but they're not going to give you passability through others. When are the microtransactions fully moving from POE1 to POE2? All of them will be done by the end of early access. They said it's way harder to move them over than you would think or than they thought it would be. So that's my 100 mile an hour, 2.5 hours condensed into whatever that was, 10 minutes of explaining everything that Grinding Gear Games is doing. But I want to reiterate something. They said they did this entire patch in 2 weeks. And they said somewhere right here, what was the most exciting thing that they wanted to announce? They said it's in the next patch. So not even any of the stuff that we had today. So to me, this is not only a godly change for Path of Exile 2 today, it honestly makes me really, really excited for the next patch. And one more thing that I wanted to say is I was completely wrong. I didn't think Grinding Gear Games should do this, but I was really expecting them to just nerf everything today and just crucify everything. They didn't do that at all. They took what I think is a much smarter approach. They made the game a lot more fun, and they're saving all the fixes in conjunction with a major balance patch, whenever it's going to be. I have no idea. Next month. And that's the best of both worlds. Everybody's happy right now. And then when you do all the nerfs in the next patch and you have a new economy thing, people will forget about it because you made the game better and because there'll probably be a lot of new cool things that'll just make them forget about it. So their tactics here, their strategies, it's not just the patch itself, it's the thinking here is very, very strong. My confidence in Grinding Gear Games was already pretty high. My confidence improves significantly with this patch and with this showcase here. By the way, I will say one more thing. In general, I thought DM and Gazzy did a very, very good job. They asked a shitload of questions. They weren't messing around. They honestly didn't even let the devs off so easy on some of the topics. It was a great performance by them as well. It's a good time to be a POE2 fan, I guess.